So The Long Walk was directed by Francis Lawrence and it stars Cooper Hoffman, David Johnson, Charlie Plummer, Ben Wong, Mark Hamill, Judy Greer, and in this movie set in a dystopian United States after the events of another civil war, all these young boys, they have to go on this long walk, basically where they have to just start walking and they can't stop until one of them wins the event. Basically, if they stop walking, they are killed, and so on and so forth. So this was a movie that I saw the trailer for. I'm like, really? This movie? Like, this movie looks silly. This movie looks ridiculous. How are you going to make something like walking look scary? And as far as Stephen King's movies go, they can be hit or miss. There are some that are pretty good, but there are some that are pretty bad. And I didn't even know this was under his Richard Bachman years, where it's like, okay, that's actually where that was a surname that he was using instead of Stephen King. So but they're still marketing it as a Stephen King movie and such. So anyway, beside the point, it looked like it was not going to be that crazy, it was not going to be that intimidating, but after watching this movie is now in a camp that I say, this movie is very good, this movie is very well done, but if I ever want to watch this movie again, I'm going to need to be in the right headspace, because, man, this movie is brutal, this movie is heavy, this movie can be pretty intense at times. I was not expecting that. So let's start off with the things I do like in this movie. First off, a lot of the actors are fantastic. Cooper Hoffman, I thought he was pretty good. David Johnson, I thought he was really good as well. I like the two of them together. Their bond is really good. Ben Wong offers some really funny moments here and there. Charlie Plummer is a very interesting character. When you see like how his character grows throughout this entire movie, it's like, okay, that's actually very well done and such. Most of the actors do a really good job. You do understand where everyone's kind of coming from in this movie. You also basically you start caring about everyone in this movie, even if they're kind of a jerk. And I do think this movie does a very good job of like trying to make you sympathize with everyone who's participating in this. And also, I also like the moments where it's like they actually feel more human than like some other characters, because like they do kind of crack jokes here and there, and the jokes are admittedly pretty funny, but they're not funny because of the situation they're in. They're just funny because they're just being said. It's like I kind of prefer jokes like that rather than like them making jokes about the situation itself. I feel like that's where the movie also kind of shined for me, where it's like it was like all of them kind of going together. It's like I've heard this is kind of an allegory of war, and it kind of reminded me of war movies and such, like, you know, the Brotherhood and such, of like, you know, characters who are in this situation. It is very well done. I also will say this movie was surprisingly intense. I was like, how are you going to make this movie intense? How are you going to actually do that with this movie? They actually did a pretty good job of it. And it kind of shows you pretty early on like what it's like, and I actually feel like there's basically like the title card actually doesn't appear for a while in this movie, and I do think that's very effective as well. And it kind of shows you, oh, crap, this is what we're getting into. The kills themselves are also very minimal, which is surprising to me, but it's like the more I thought of it, it's like, okay, well, at least that kind of makes sense. Like, they kind of show off all these, like, you know, very brutal kills very early on, but as they kind of go on, they kind of become more desensitized to it, and they kind of don't put as much attention on it. That was very interesting to me. The sound design of this movie is very well done. It's like, you kind of have to imagine like what's going on in some of these situations, and I do think that it's very well done with how they handle the sound design in this movie. Incredible. The actors do a fantastic job for the most part. I do think this is a movie that I kind of went in thinking, you know, is this movie really going to be that intense? And I'm like, yeah, this movie, again, is going to be in a camp where I'm like, I need to be in the right mindset just to watch this movie, because this movie's a downer, to say the least. Yeah, it's a lot to take in. But let's talk about some of the things I don't like in this movie. First off, a couple of the actors I felt like were kind of wasted, particularly some of the more veteran actors. Judy Greer, her character does nothing but just cry in this movie. And I'm like, really? Really? You're going to do that, movie? And I felt like her character could have been played by any actress, and it would not have lost anything whatsoever. It's a shame. I like Judy Greer, but I felt like her character was just wasted. Mark Hamill is also pretty wasted in this movie. He appears occasionally, and he kind of just basically kind of a knockoff version of someone like, say, the guard from R. Lee Ermey from Full Metal Jacket, except not nearly as vulgar, obviously. But I felt like his character was very underutilized. Like, there are times where it's like, oh, right, Mark Hamill was in this thing. And I felt like he could have been more of an intimidating presence if he had been more in this movie. They kind of talk a lot about his character, but I never really felt like he was that character at times. There are also some twists in this movie that I felt like were a little unnecessary. Like, there was one moment with one of the characters who's like one of the last few there, and he kind of mentions something that why he's walking and such. And it's literally never brought up again. And I'm like, weird that you bring that up. Why would you bring that up if you're not going to really do anything with it? I felt like that was very underwhelming. And also, I would say I feel like there should have been a few more interesting angles this movie could have took as well. Maybe it didn't want to oversaturate itself and kind of like be like, oh, let's go dive into this and such. Maybe could have done something about like how, society kind of like is showing like a lot of these murders on TV and such, and it's like how we kind of became desensitized to that. I feel like that could have been really interesting as well, but I felt like the movie couldn't. The movie didn't do that, so it kind of just focused on them. I guess it's like, let's focus on the characters who are actually in the Long Walk rather than people who are actually watching the Long Walk. That kind of makes sense. Also, again with that twist, there's a twist as I mentioned. Again, I won't spoil it here because, admittedly, I think it's pretty unnecessary. But it's like normally when I go back and watch a movie and kind of like look back for clues and such, like, oh, that makes more sense now because now I know what this movie's like. This movie, I'm like, I don't know if I can go back into it. Well, then again, I need to be in the right mindset to watch this movie again, but I don't know if there's going to be anything in that movie that made me go, oh, this is something that I didn't notice before that led me to this twist. So that was very underwhelming to me. But also, it's also kind of just, it kind of doesn't follow the book entirely. I did look up the book before I actually saw the movie, and they definitely changed a lot of things from the book. Some of them I'm okay with, some of them I'm like, well, that's kind of unnecessary. And I feel like if you really love the book, you may be disappointed in this movie. But considering I've never read the book, I've really never read a Stephen King book because his books are incredibly long. But yeah, it's definitely something where I looked at as like, okay, even I know I didn't read the book, but even I know it's like this happened very differently. But I will say this is actually a pretty good movie. This is intense. This is incredible. This is intense. This is very emotional. The performances are really good. The sound design is interesting. The kills themselves are very fascinating in how they portray them and such. I do like the sense of brotherhood throughout the movie with the main characters and such. And even though I don't like some of the actors, I felt like there were a couple unnecessary twists. I felt like it wasn't very dystopic enough, or at least they could have added some more commentary to some other things. This is a very intense movie that is going to a camp where I'm like, this movie's very good, but I need to be in the right mindset to watch it again. So I'm gonna give The Long Walk 3 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what is a movie that you think is very good, but you need to be in the right mindset to watch it? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.